Um, so yeah, welcome. I'll just introduce Cynthia. Cynthia is, oh, everybody here knows Cynthia. Okay. I'll just say I'm recording, but I don't think anybody here minds being recorded. I'll just turn it over to you, Cynthia.
Hi, everyone. As you can tell, Laura and I are a little punchy and silly right now, but we're going to pull it together, so don't worry. Can some people turn on their cameras? It'd be nice to see some of you. Or maybe that's part of our problem. Okay. Anyway, we'll just go ahead. I'm not sure actually what's going on. So why doesn't everybody just sit up straight, and we'll just have a short meditation, and then we'll get started. So just close your eyes. And just sit still. You don't have to try to do anything. You don't need to try to be the best meditator. You don't even need to try to meditate. Just be still and relax into that stillness. And if you feel anxious or if you feel any kind of agitation, just allow yourself to just drop below the disturbance that's on the surface. And recognize that you might be aware of the turbulence. But you that is aware is already still. So you don't need to try to understand this. Just allow yourself to be, to relax, and really fall deeply into your own heart. So keeping your eyes closed, we're going to finish the meditation with an action that everyone knows how to do, except for Jane maybe. So Jane, why don't you open your eyes? And we're going to bring our hands up in the I'm available. So hands come up and everyone says, I'm available. Hands coming to your heart and saying, I'm available. And hands coming together and head down and saying, I'm available. And then coming up when you're ready. Okay. So I think, can everyone hear me okay? Yes? Okay. I'm not sure if we have a big delay. Maybe you can turn off. We're going to try something and then just continue. So if you can't hear me, just please wave your hands and then I'll stop talking. Okay. All right. So everybody can hear me at this point. Is that right? Yeah? Okay, great. So we have, it's kind of interesting because we don't have a webinar very often where we just have all the regulars. And we don't really have anybody new that's on the call. So that actually gives us a little bit of flexibility, so to speak. So I was wondering, when we were doing the meditation, I actually found that I had nothing to say. And it felt like everyone went very deeply into the meditation. Was that your experience? Yes, no? Say yes. Okay. This is very weird for me because all of you guys are somewhat frozen. So I feel like I'm flying blind here a little bit. So I'm just going to talk and not really look at you, because what's happening is that everyone's stuck and then everybody moves really quick. And then you go back to being stuck. So it's, I feel like I'm on drugs, but it's okay. We'll be okay. Oh, okay. The audio is perfect. Thank you, Katrin. Okay. So anyway, I think the thing that I want to talk about, I did want to talk about insecurity and control, because, you know, a lot of times people are always talking about trying to let go of control. And it's very interesting because if you think about it, inherent in saying, I want to let go of control, inherent in saying that is that you think you actually are in control, right? So that's kind of interesting. So you think you're in control and you want to let go of control. Okay, so who's in charge there? Obviously, you. You get to be the one who's in control and you get to be the one who's not in control. But you get to be the one who decides what's going on. So in either scenario, if you think you're in control, you think you're out of control, you're actually still thinking you're in control. So you're not really losing any control by thinking you're letting go of control. So that's kind of interesting. But also the thing is control and insecurity and how they work together. So usually when we're insecure, we're grasping for control. We were having a women's call the other day, and somebody was talking about when they just felt so completely out of control that they just wanted to drive, because they felt like if they were driving, they were in control. At least they're driving the car and they're controlling the car. Or somebody else said they want to clean, because then they can control their environment by cleaning their environment, you know, making things neat. So we do all these things to bring back some sense of control when we feel insecure. So that does, that might work for a second or two. But really, if you think about it, inherent in being a human being is the truth that you are living in a state of insecurity all the time. So the world that we live in is constantly changing. Okay? So everything, I've said this a gazillion times, everything is arising and falling away in every second, arising and falling away, arising and falling away. There's nothing permanent. There's nothing secure. The only thing that's permanent and secure is consciousness itself, in which all this activity is actually arising and falling away. So here we are as human beings living in a very insecure situation because our bodies are changing. Everything is dying. Everything around us is changing and dying. Relationships are changing. Everything's changing. If everything's changing, what's secure? Where is the security in being a human being? So we have to actually go beyond the relative reality that we think is real. So what I mean by that is, if we as human beings recognize that everything that we perceive, think, or feel is constantly changing, and that there's nothing secure in thinking, feeling, or perceiving, and we come to realize that for ourselves, and we understand that, and the only way we can actually be okay with that is to recognize that which never changes, and that which everything is arising out of. So if you look at it this way, the grasping for security is a movement away from that which is already secure. So thinking we are in control, or trying to either get control or let go of control, is a movement away from that which is controlling everything, which is consciousness itself. So this is very interesting to think about, because everybody on this call, all of you guys are interested in spiritual freedom. I would assume all of you are sick of being victims to your mind. You're sick of, trying to control your environment and the people, in your life, just trying to control things, and you find out it doesn't work, which basically makes you feel more insecure because everything you try doesn't work. But on occasion, something happens and you switch your point of view from the separate I that's grasping for security. The point of view switches to consciousness itself. And then all that grasping, all that need for security, all that attempt to control just disappears. And why does it disappear? It disappears because it's actually an activity that isn't needed and has never been needed. So you could say it's an illusion, because you as a separate I trying to control something, how can you, if you're identified as a separate self, how is it that an illusion can control anything? Right? Isn't that interesting? So then, don't you think that deep rest and relaxation comes from the realization that you are not in control? It doesn't come from being in control. It comes from the realization that you are not in control as a separate self. It comes from the surrender and the relaxation into stillness, into consciousness itself as yourself. And then there is no separate I that needs to be protected. There is no separate I that needs to be in control. You are still here as a human being, you're still in a world that's constantly changing. It's very challenging. It's very challenging. It's one thing, this is one thing we learned in the fires. And I'm sure if you look at other situations in your life, but you know, you can think you're in control and you find out that you're not. And you can be really freaked out about that, or you can see it as an opportunity to wake up to the reality and the truth that inherent in being a human being is insecurity. But inherent in being an awakened human being is it's a transcending of the fear of insecurity. Because it doesn't mean that you won't feel insecure, but you can transcend what that actually means to you. So let's just take, for example, if you have a situation where you feel completely insecure and you start to get very, very nervous and you start grasping, trying to control your situation. And the more you try to grasp and the more you try to control, the more insecure you feel because it's not working. And the only way that you actually find rest and relaxation is to turn your attention away from the anxiety and the fear of insecurity. So the examples I gave, you know, somebody saying that they just would drive because they felt like they were in control, or they would clean. But really what's happening is cleaning doesn't make you in control. Driving doesn't make you in control. But what it does is you're distracting yourself. You're taking your attention off of the fear of being out of control. See, when you take your attention off fear and you take your attention, you just shift that which is deeply at rest, even though you're not trying to do that. You're just available to something else. You're open to another possibility. You're open to just taking your attention off the need for control. You think you're trying to control something by cleaning or driving, but you're not actually. You're just shifting your attention, and all of a sudden you're just driving and you're just cleaning. And then where did all that fear and insecurity go? I mean, if you want to keep your attention on insecurity, the insecurity is still going to be there, even if you're driving or even if you're cleaning. Isn't it? Is this making sense to anybody? So you can see it's kind of futile, right? It's futile. You just have to actually accept the truth that everything is changing all the time. If everything is changing all the time, there is no security. There's nothing to hold on to, because as soon as you hold on to it, it's changed anyway. It's just the truth. So now death is kind of the ultimate insecurity, and we can all feel insecure, especially as we get older. You know, we start asking all these questions. I was talking to somebody today, a friend of mine, and she's also 60. And it was interesting because we both came to we were both talking about this. And I said, well, isn't it interesting? Because my whole life, I've basically just followed a thread: faith, trust, and surrender, my whole life. And I'm living a life that's fantastic. It's amazing. I don't think I could have ever planned it. So the faith, trust, and surrender strategy seems to be working, right? So why all of a sudden I'm 60 and insecurity comes up, why all of a sudden should I start worrying about why should I switch to a different strategy? Why should I think about, oh, now I need to get better insurance. I need to make sure that, I know which home I'm going to go to ever, it's just crazy. But this is really where it's interesting. We always have to be able to lean into what our deepest understanding is. And usually all we have to do is look at our own experience. Because you don't have to be 60 to look at this. Just look and see how often when for example, you allow yourself to just get so upset, so insecure, so freaked out that you don't know what to do, so you just give up. And then all of a sudden, all of it just falls away. So you recognize through your own experience, if I just give up, or surrender, it goes pretty well. Isn't that true? I mean, look at your own life. You know, when you're trying to control everything, does it work? Trying to control the people in your life, it doesn't really work. You're trying to control the economic situation, doesn't really work. You're trying to control the environmental situation, doesn't really work. Doesn't mean you can't do things if you want to try to change those systems, but trying to control everything, it just doesn't work. So then logically we can say, well, maybe we should do something different. Maybe we should just recognize that there is no such thing as control. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to bring forward. I don't know how coherent that was, but I wasn't trying to control anything, so that's how it came out. I have to say, I did have a few moments of insecurity, but I didn't really care. So what do you guys think about this? So I'd like tonight to be kind of interactive, and because all of you guys have been on the calls before, and some of you are part of our Sangha, so there's no reason to hold back. No. Okay, so since we have so few people on the screen, you don't have to do the mechanical raising your hand thing. You can basically just start talking. Inga, you want to talk? Okay, I can't hear you. Can you hear? I've got my volume up. Yeah. Can anybody else hear Inga?
No.
Oh, okay, good. I'm not the only one.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. There you go.
It's this one. Yeah, I have a question to this insurance thing that you mentioned. For example, I can trust and faith, trust and surrender in that I may stay healthy, or I don't need for example, I say I don't need a health insurance. But in the end, let's say I don't have any health insurance, but then I get sick, and let's say I cannot afford like the treatment, but like a health insurance could have afforded it for me. Mm-hmm. So then in the first place I said I faith, trust and surrender, and then I don't have a health insurance, and then I get sick, and then maybe, yeah,
it's not I'm glad you're asking the question, because it's not a case of I'm saying that you don't have health insurance. If you want to get health insurance, you get health insurance, but you're not doing it from an anxiety point of view of trying to control anything. So I mean, I have health insurance, but some people continue to get more and more and more health insurance out of some kind of anxiety or sense of trying to control. So you want to be responsible in taking care of what you need to take care of, but you do it from a place of recognizing that everything is out of control. Because you can have fantastic health insurance and still something else could happen. So it's more like that. You want to be responsible.
Sure, yeah, this is sure. And yet I want to care, let's say, for my physical body as much as I can, like in a way to have it as healthy as I can and keep it healthy. And maybe this helps with the health insurance, but of course there is no security that I get 80 years old just because I have an insurance. That's for sure.
Right, exactly.
It's just.
But it's really what I'm talking about is really like a fundamental position of recognizing the truth of insecurity and the truth of the illusion of controlling anything. You see, because then you have a free relationship to life, and then maybe you get insurance, maybe you don't get insurance, but it's not coming from any kind of ideas or fear, or not even just fear. It's not coming from a place of, if I do this, then this will happen. I mean, all we can do is all we can do in any given moment. But I think what's really more important, what I'm trying to get across, is when we do this, I'm available, I'm available, I'm available, or you bow down in a way of offering yourself, then something miraculous starts to take place. It may not be exactly what you're hoping for, but you're actually getting exactly what you need in order to break through the ideas that we have about who we are and how we should live. And we start to recognize what conditioned human beings we actually are. And then can we really face all of that, all that fear, all that insecurity that comes up, all of it, just, really face the situation of what it is to be human. Face maybe that being human is not even just about being happy. Maybe being human is just an opportunity to transcend conditioning. And maybe it's just intense. So maybe all of this is going on, but do we have the faith, trust, and surrender in that which is aware, that which is all of this? Do we have that? Or are we trying to control our experience because we don't surrender to that which we actually know in the deepest part of ourselves? And I'm saying this because, everybody on the call, most of the people on the call already know what I'm talking about, so I don't have to lay a big context. So everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so what happens when there's actually two Carol Chapmans, so I know one person is not Carol Chapman. That must be Carol Chapman's friend. Okay. So what's your name, Carol Chapman number 2? Oh.
I've just asked her to switch her mic off, and I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll unmute her. Okay.
Her name's Jan.
Jan, okay. So Jan, when we started, all the people that were on the call were people that I already knew and had been on lots of calls. So I kind of just went for it in a way. So I hope you're not lost. So just kind of hang in there with us if you don't mind.
I will do. Yeah, we started a bit late, but yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so where were we? Where's Inga? Okay.
Health insurance.
I think we went past that.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm trying to say is that everybody knows through their own experience that you are not your mind, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, you are not your body. It's not an intellectual thing, because if you've had a glimpse to see that you are actually that which is animating the body, you are that which is breathing the body. The body is a modification of consciousness, but you are not only that modification, you are that is prior to any object that's arising within your awareness. Everybody with me? Okay, so if you are that, then that is all that's important. Everything else that comes up is all just stuff. It's things that happen in your life that you actually need to deal with because of the conditioning that we have as human beings, because we have history, because we have issues, because we have personalized thought and feeling, most of our lives. We end up thinking we have a problem. We're convinced that we're separate. We're convinced that we're, that we're just in a constant state of rejection. we're convinced that there's a problem. But the truth actually is we are that which is prior to any rejection, any problem, any issue, anything. And all of those things that we're trying to get away from are modifications of consciousness itself. All those things that we're trying to avoid are basically moments that are coming to us to wake us up. It's all God, it's all consciousness. But we don't relate to it that way. So here we are in this world as human beings, trying to find our way. But instead of being interested, a lot of the day, instead of being interested in like, oh my God, look at this intensity is in my face. Oh my God, look at pain is coming my way. There's been a loss, somebody's died. My health is not good, whatever it happens to be. Instead of being interested in that as a gift of consciousness to wake us up, what we end up doing is we try to control it and we try to push it away because we feel insecure. You see, but in that moment that we're looking at those things and we're pushing them away because we feel insecure. It's coming from a wrong identification of actually who we are. In that moment, we are the conditioned separate self. But if we can just not run away from intensity and insecurity, if we can just not trying to control anything, we can actually rest as ourselves, and then we can have space in order to see the whole play coming forward. And if you actually see the movement of ego arising in your own experience in real time and you don't move, then it's something else happens and you get in touch with the mystery that's actually driving the whole show, which is you as consciousness yourself. Is everybody with me?
Hi.
Hi, Nina.
Can you repeat the last 2 sentences or so?
I don't think so. Did anybody remember what I said?
Yes, because I find it really interesting, the sense of if we really just watch the movement of the ego, like you said,
right,
and not run from it, not move. We're seeing it. We're seeing a deeper truth of that is just even an illusion too. So yeah. Yeah,
it's a case of. Thanks, Rick. I'm glad that you're. I'm glad you're listening. No, but it's very interesting because. So for example, I'll just give you a personal example. Does anybody have like anybody ever feel kind of rejected and you have like a rejection button? So if somebody doesn't give you what you want, then you feel rejected and then you feel like, but what usually happens when you feel rejected is you usually get angry or you get victimized and then you get angry because you're victimized and then you want to do something to somebody or you want to change something because they're the cause of your rejection. And they may not even be in the room. So the personal example I can give you is Pete's in India. He's been there for a couple months now. And, and so there's times where he's going to contact me and and he doesn't. Most of the time he does. But let's just say that there's a time he's supposed to contact me and I don't get a message when I'm expecting to get a message, for example. So I wake up in the morning, he's 5.5 hours ahead of me, and I check my phone, WhatsApp, to see if there's a message, and there's no message. And I tell you, it's the most interesting thing, because it's fine that he doesn't send me a message. I don't have to have a message every morning when I wake up. But when I look at my phone and there's no message, the rejection button is like, bing! And so in that moment, I just watch it, and I go, wow, look at that. And then I can look, and I can see what I would have done with that, before. And what I would have done with that before is I would get really angry with him. I would, I'd have this whole scenario that, he's having a good time and I'm here just having to take care of the Kinta and blah, 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 blah. Right? And you just watch the whole play that would happen. And what would end up happening in the end is I would probably just want to make him feel guilty and make him feel bad. Why? He didn't do anything. He wasn't even there. He doesn't even know my rejection button is being pushed. Can anybody relate to this example?
Yes.
So that's what I mean, but it's very powerful when you see this habit of ego just coming forth, and you're just watching it going, oh my God, that's what I normally would do. But you're not going to be able to see that unless you have the courage to actually face up to the fact that that's what you've done. You have to actually see where you participated in egoic responses that have, that have caused, harm to another person, and just go, wow, right, I don't want to do that to them anymore. You see, because if you don't get connected to the effect of your action, you'll never actually be able to see your action.
But a question that arises there are two situations, let's say. One situation is he was supposed to write you because you were expecting an answer, or he said something like, I give you an answer then, and he didn't. Or it was just a message that didn't arise, that you just wanted, and it was just an idea in your head. Because if someone says, I write to you to give you an answer, and there is no answer coming, then of course there is a certain anger, or I don't know how to put, but if someone said,
but why does there have to be anger? Because here's the thing that's very interesting. You see, if the person doesn't write to you, and let's say that they just don't write to you, and they don't get a hold of you because they just don't feel like it, or they're just rude, or they're just selfish. You see, that doesn't mean that you are being rejected. It just means that they're rude and selfish. It doesn't have to mean anything about you. You don't have to take that and turn it into a big story that's causing you suffering. You can just go, it's an objective fact. Wow, they told me they would contact me and they didn't. Period. And that's not cool. I don't appreciate that. Period. So when I talk to them, I can say, first of all, you can always leave. You have to leave space that maybe they didn't contact you for a reason. So before you've already, sentenced them to death, you actually might want to find out, what happened. But see, if we're just reacting out of our own insecurity, it doesn't even occur to us to say, wow, I was expecting you to call and you didn't. Is everything all right? You see, we can say the same exact thing. We can say, for example, oh, you said you would call and you didn't. Is everything all right? We can say those exact words from completely different places. It's not the words, it's from where you're saying them. Because I could be very much, if you're holding on to rejection, but you don't want to look like you're holding on to rejection because you want to look more enlightened than that, right? But you're still, so then you're saying the exact same words, but it's coming with an edge. So it's like, well, are you okay? But there's a in there, right? And everybody knows what that is. But, and so it's just, all of it is just the separate I trying to put different masks on. But underneath, it's just, it's just a separate I that feels wounded and rejected. But really nothing's happened because who we are hasn't been touched by any of that. So it doesn't really even matter if somebody was rude and rejected you. It only matters what you do with it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
You see, because otherwise we spend our whole lives just feeling wronged. Somebody wronged me, therefore I have a big excuse to be, to be angry. And then somebody else does something to you, and you're holding on to this identity of being wronged and wounded, and somebody else does something and they're supposed to do something and they don't. You see, then you've got a whole, like, I knew it. You see, there's such a strong contraction of ego there that it creates this solidity. And then you think you have a big problem to get over. But you don't have a problem to get over because everything is arising and falling away. And this is the good part of this impermanence. Because none of the problems that anybody has, none of the conditioning that anybody has is permanent. I mean, if everybody could get this, you see, then you can recognize the habit of ego as it's arising in real time, because you recognize that nothing is permanent. None of your conditioning is permanent. It feels permanent because you react to it over and over and over and over again. But what if, if you just think about it, what if all of the stuff that you think you have to get over, all of your habits that you have, what if you actually recognized them as arising and falling away? Why would you have to do anything with them? They're already going to go away anyway. But that's not how we look at our life. But just think about it for a second. Why do you have to spend your life getting over something that is actually not permanent?
I have a question, Cynthia. Because right now there's something, because I think and one reason why they feel permanent is because they keep coming back. So there's an experience maybe of discomfort, and I let it be, and then maybe I tell myself I'm not touched by it, it's gone, and then it's just reappearing over and over again. Is that because
Yeah, but you're drawing an assumption though, Sonia, because just because there's content arising in your awareness, and it's the same content over and over again, so to speak, it doesn't matter what the content that's arising in your awareness. It's only if you personalize that content. Because does it matter if you go outside, and every night you go outside and you look in the sky and you see stars, and every day you go out and you see stars, does it bother you?
No, they're just there.
Right. So why doesn't the appearance of stars bother you, but the appearance of a habit does bother you? Why? What's the difference?
Yeah. I labeled it as unpleasant, should not be there, is bad. Yeah, it's just my labeling or my judgment.
But what you're also, you're labeling and judging, but really what you're doing is you're personalizing it. And you're making the appearance of content mean something about you. So you're labeling it, I don't like it, I want it to go away, which is all from the point of view of a separate I that's labeling it, da-da-da-da-da. So you're making it about, I don't like this. I mean, can you imagine if you went out in the night sky every night and you looked up at the stars and you just go, I just want you to go away. I don't like this. It sounds crazy, right?
Well, I could just not look. I could just look on the earth.
You could, but what if you went out in the night sky and you were having this victimized relationship to all the stars, right? And let's say that you just saw yourself being victimized as you're looking at the stars, or contracted because you're like, oh my God, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. But you're recognizing the ridiculousness of I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And then when you recognize the ridiculousness of the habit of all of that, and you start to laugh, why would you start to laugh? Because you're in touch with that, which is prior to all of the conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you see, Yeah, what you were saying is really important, though, because this is the biggest mistake that we all make, is we draw the conclusion that because there's an appearance of a particular content, there's a problem. But if everything is arising and falling away in every moment, the only reason certain things bother us and certain things don't is because we make it mean something about a separate I that doesn't exist. And we're identified with that separate I as being who we are.
Yeah.
You know, this is one example I give. So everybody's sitting down now. You can kind of see, right? So everybody's sitting down. And, you know, so nobody's having a problem, you know, necessarily with the cushion that they're sitting on, right? So if everybody gets in touch with whatever you're sitting on, you can feel it under your bum, right? Okay, so you're feeling it. It's there since we, you know, it's there. It's not, it's kind of your constant experience, but you're not making it into a problem, but it's constantly there as you're sitting, you know, as long as you're sitting here, it's going to be there. But if you're sitting here and you're having a thought that comes up that is saying, I don't understand, you know, everybody else is smarter than me, you know, I had a racist thought, oh my God, I'm a racist. See, the presence of a thought that is against what we think we should be having, we make it into a huge problem. When we're just sitting here, we don't make the cushion under our bums a problem because we don't personalize it. Do you get what I'm saying? You know, I don't know if this is just something that came to me, and Pete put it out on our Pulse. I finally had a quote on the Pulse. I was so excited. But anyway, you see a thought. When you think about it, what is a thought? We know what we think about thoughts, but what actually is it? Is it, you know, does it have a certain color? Does it have a certain shape? What actually is it? And you could say the same thing for an emotion. What is an emotion? You can describe an emotion, you can describe a thought, you know, but what is it? So if you think about thoughts or emotions, thoughts and emotions rule our lives. But what we're doing is when you think about what is a thought, what is an emotion, the answer to that question is, I don't know. You ultimately do not know what a thought or an emotion actually is. I mean, just think about it. Can anybody tell me what a thought or emotion actually is? If you can't, it's because you don't know what it is. And the reason you don't know what it is because it's beyond that which you can cognize with the mind. It's beyond anything you can imagine. So why, if there's something called a thought, something called an emotion, and we actually don't know what it is, why do we let it rule our lives? Does it make sense to anybody? But the beautiful part of this little inquiry is like, what is a thought? What is an emotion? And when you get in touch with the fact like, gosh, I actually don't know. You see, in that moment, you're in touch with something prior to all the ideas you have about what a thought is, what an emotion is. And then you're in touch with that which is real. And I guarantee if you actually do this in the heat of some kind of intensity, and you're having an emotional experience of fear or pain, and you go, well, what actually is it? What is this pain? Not where did it come from and all of that, but what is it? What is it? What is it? You continue to ask yourself what it is. You'll continue to not have an answer, but you'll be pulled through the doorway into a mystery that's prior to, and that's the essence of everything. And then you won't care. what the answer to the question is. You won't even care about the pain because you're in touch with something that's much more interesting and compelling than anything, any kind of relationship you were having with pain or anything. Do you see what I mean? I mean, just really think about it. These are, you know, it's like we're so convinced we already know everything. We know what a thought is. We know what a feeling is. We know. But really, when you start to look into this stuff, we don't know anything. But the beauty of this kind of exercise is when you really look into it and you find out you don't know, you're in touch with a mystery. You're in touch with consciousness itself. And even the need to know dissolves. And then what's left? You don't know. But it's really good. Does anybody have any response to that?
Yeah, while you're speaking, Cynthia, I had this constant movement to, so you were saying, but just think about it. We don't even know what a thought and emotion is. What is it? And I was constantly thinking, like holding on to what I know. And we don't even create it and blah, blah. But like I was always holding on to what I know about it. You know, wasn't willing to go to the, we don't know. Until you said about mystery. And then I really felt this love for the mystery. And I really felt like this is something I need to lean into, you know, like the trusting to the mystery and the love for it, because it is so beautiful. You know, what could there be more beautiful than this mystery and this unknown and this, it's kind of, yeah, like the spectacle of life.
And when you got in touch with that mystery, Katrin, was it a thing or was it something else?
Yeah, it was something else. It was very mysterious, like, yeah, something I can't describe. A mysterious mystery.
Right. And then, yeah, and then all that grasping to try to go, what do I know about it? It just disappears, right?
Yes, it wasn't important anymore. It didn't matter. Yeah.
So next time when you're feeling a lot of intensity or victimized by something, or you know something comes up that you feel emotional intensity, just ask yourself the question, well, what is it? And do this.
Yes.
Because it'll take you to the exact place that you're talking about in the midst of you know, emotional intensity. You could say in the midst of the fire, in the midst of battle. You see, if you keep fighting with something when it's arising, then you won't get to the same recognition that you just described. You'll just continue to wind up, you know, more and more contracted, still trying to figure out what it is, instead of just like, what is it?
Yeah, like not ask the question in order to analyze it, but in order to expose it. Yeah, for, yeah, some. That's very difficult. I can already see.
What do you mean? It's very difficult. You just did it.
It happened, yeah. Yes, that's right. You're right.
But if you just did it now, why can't you? Was it difficult now?
No, but when it happened, it wasn't difficult.
But it didn't just happen, because the way you described your experience is that you were sitting there trying to figure out, well, how, you know, what I know about it. You actually saw the movement of my mind, just what I know about it. And then you just said, yeah, but what is it? And then you said something about the mystery. When I said something about the mystery, then you just got in touch with it. So you did that. You basically, you shifted your attention from needing to know to like, oh my God, what is it? It's a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah, suddenly the mystery.
So you did that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, suddenly the mystery became much more interesting when the need to know. Yeah. And it's true, like to me, it really felt like it happened, like I didn't do it, but it's good of you to point out that I did it. It feels empowering to know that.
Yeah, because the reason why I said that is because you said, oh, it would be difficult kind of in the heat of emotional intensity or the heat of something. Oh, it would be difficult. You see, but that's just an idea coming from the mind.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you ask yourself, what is an idea? What is it? You know, what is an idea? Is it a thing? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adverb? Is it a preposition? What in the hell is it? What is an idea? And you go, what is it? And you're going to come to the same exact answer. I don't know.
Wow, but it's so scary. I'm so lost when I start thinking, what is it? It's like, no, backwards.
Yeah, but then okay, so then look at your experience right now and you're going, oh, it's so scary, right? Okay, so you're having some kind of emotional response and it's so scary. Okay, so what is it that's happening right now? What is it? It's scary. What is scary? What is it that's scary?
An idea again.
Right, and then you go, what is that? What is an idea? What is it? This is like a foolproof kind of strategy to take you through the doorway, you know. But it really does show that, you know, we think we know everything. That's kind of the nature of a human being, right? Don't we think we know what a chair is? We know what we know what an idea is. We know what another person is like. We know. And there's certain ways that we can say, yeah, we've all agreed to call this thing, you know, that you sit on a chair. So it doesn't mean I'm saying that everybody should just become stupid because a chair is a chair. But when you really go, well, what is it? You can do the same thing with your hand, anything. And the answer is the same. It's either I don't know or it's all consciousness. It can all only be one thing. So the fear of not knowing, what is it? So you don't have to be afraid of anything. Because even if fear is arising, it's just fear, and you go, what is it? It's fear. Okay, what is that? What is fear?
Yeah, wow.
So then we don't have to avoid life anymore. You know, because if we think we know everything already, we're avoiding actually what is. And we're living with just a constant state of a delusion. You know, we have a delusional relationship to life. I mean, and these sound like, you know, I don't know if you guys are listening to this and you're going, well, yeah, this all sounds kind of fun and, you know, like spiritual party games and stuff. But it's not really, because it's really important to recognize how much we think we know everything, how limited that movement is. But if we just stop and just question ourselves in this way, it does exactly what Katrin described. It takes you into a point of view where you recognize the mystery of life as yourself, and everything else falls away. Bye, Pegs. Where she went. So don't you think this could drastically change your relationship to being a human being?
Well, I'm just seeing that the ultimate mystery is life itself, and all of this is life. And we can take it all back to life. And, you know, for everything that the scientists have explained about how a human being gets born and what a cell is, and we still don't know what life is.
Right.
And it's all life. Everything
No,
we're
but it's funny
discussing.
because you say we don't know what life is and it's all life.
Yeah.
But then you think, well, what is it? Because even labeling it's all life, it gives it's much smaller than what it actually is. Because when we think about, well, what is it? What is my idea of life? What is it? It does something to you.
Mm.
It opens everything up where you're more interested in just resting in that which is, opposed to having to know what everything is.
Mm.
And then it's just a reconfiguration, because what are you going to do with all your time? Are you just going to, you might just sit around and look happy. Has anybody had the experience of you just don't know what to do with yourself because you're just kind of happy and there's no problem? Right? And then you feel a little bit like, I don't know what to do. I'm just happy. I don't know who I am. I'm just happy. So it's a reconfiguration, because we're so convinced of everything that's opposite of what I just described. We have to have a problem to get over. We have to have this. And obviously we live in a world that's built on problems, and it's built on assumptions, and it's built on knowing how things are. It's built, on knowing what's right, what's right according to who, what's wrong according to who. We live in a world that's just, it's about the known. And so it takes a lot of courage to have a different relationship to this world and live in the midst of it. But it doesn't matter, whatever situation, no matter what it is, if we change our point of view, then how we live is different. Our situation may not change, but if our point of view changes, we will be different. We will act different. We will respond differently to not only our own mind and emotions and thoughts, but we will respond differently to the other. And every time we respond differently to the other, even though there is no other, but even though we respond differently to the other, see, it gives a chance for something new to break into consciousness.
I have a.
Jim, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Cynthia. I had something, I'm hesitant to share it, but it seems something very specific that seems to resonate with what you're pointing to. And it was here, I went to the store, it was dark and it was raining. And as I approached the front of the store, there was a woman in a wheelchair back underneath, obviously a homeless person. And I think I had just had a meditation, so I was kind of in a place of being very open. And I saw her, and she said, "Hello, sweetheart." And my response was, "Hello, sweetheart." But there was something about it that I wanted to escape that moment. I know, do you have a handout? Do you have something you could give me? I knew that was coming, and I wanted to kind of get around the corner into the store before it happened. And I could hear it as I was passing by her. Do you have a handout? And my reaction to it was, why are people like that in front of the store? Can't I just be at peace? Something like that. It was like I wanted to escape it, wanted to get away from it. And I had very few things I needed to pick up in the store. But while I was in there, I just kept looking at that and just kind of feeling into it. And I was doing a course on gratitude and generosity. And I thought, well, that is certainly, that is not the place of gratitude or generosity that you're in. I could feel it in my body. It was kind of like wanting to push her off into the distance. So I just stopped and I said, well, I just bought her, let's just buy her something to eat. And I was right I was going to actually try to go. I was going to go out the store and go around the other way, so I didn't have to confront her again. Isn't that crazy? But that was what my mind was like. That was what my mind was telling me: get away, stay away, go around. And I just stopped. I said, I'm not going to go there. I just stopped, and I found a bagel, and I bought a bagel for her, and I put it in a bag, and it was so much different having something to give her when I came out as opposed to trying to go the other direction, because it seemed to be in the spirit of acceptance and generosity. And I was also accepting the fact that, you know, there's a part of me that's very stingy and wants to hide. But it was just there. It wasn't who I was. I could just see it. And the part of me that was generous was bigger than that. And I could feel it. So I came from that place. And I think the thing that I noticed when I went by her, I just stopped, and I had this in a bag that I gave to her, and I just stood there for just a minute and looked in her eyes, and she looked and she goes, "Oh, goody." And she looked in my eyes, her eyes were just sparkling, and it just kind of like, it was just a place of, you know, when I feel into it now, it's just a place of wanting to melt at the connection that was there, that I would have just missed. And it was just a momentary moment of just, you know, I'm not separate from this human being, that there's generosity and a gratitude that was present. And somehow or another, that seems to fit into what we're pointing to, and I'm not exactly sure. Maybe having
No, it's really good because you didn't go with your, you know, what's interesting about this, Jim, is because basically what you're talking about is how we normally avoid relationship.
Yes.
Right? And you just decided not to avoid relationship. Okay, so you got a bagel, you did what you could to, you know, you made yourself comfortable in an uncomfortable situation.
Right.
But, you know, when we don't avoid relationship, we don't know maybe what we might do. So it could have been a variety of different responses. You decided to buy a bagel, and obviously she was thrilled with that, which is great. But how often do we avoid relationship? Almost all the time. And so when we don't avoid relationship, you see that just what you were saying, you weren't imposing any separation on that person. I mean, even if she didn't want your bagel, you see, you weren't avoiding relationship.
And I
Now,
think
it would have been interesting if she didn't take your bagel, and then what would happen? Then you'd probably feel really angry and all sorts of stuff would come up. But then again, you don't have to avoid relationship with even that.
Yes. It was just a moment of being vulnerable. And that's the way it occurred to me, and being open and available. And there is a feeling of being insecure in that. And and that experience of not being separate, like you might think you're so much superior to a person sitting in a wheelchair, and all that was just gone.
Right.
Just an instant. So I walked away from it feeling very moved by that connection and recognized it. So.
Yeah, and then that shows you, you know, it's like how much we miss when we're trying to avoid people that don't fit into what we think they're supposed to be.
Right.
I mean, when we start really thinking about this, we have to really change how we relate to almost everything. We're just very conditioned to be separate. We're very conditioned to take positions constantly with each other. And I think what's important, though, and it's similar to what I was saying, is using your example, Jim, you just saw all these thoughts arising in your awareness, right? When you were in the store, but you didn't make those thoughts. You didn't let those thoughts rule your life or rule your actions. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. You didn't try to control the thoughts. You didn't make yourself into a bad person for having the thoughts. You just said, okay, there's a person outside. How am I going to relate to this person? Or do I even want to relate to this person?
Right. Nor having the tendency to make yourself into a good person for what you just did. That's more of the same. The immediacy and the connection that I am with her in that moment, and looking in her eyes and just seeing that was all there was, and that was enough.
Right.
But I see turning away from that place of intimacy, vulnerability, deep connection is a habit, and it was just one of those opportunities.
Yeah.
Slipped out of it. I like what I think it was Jeff's dislodge yourself from the habit of chasing a better moment. And that seems to be an opportunity to, that tendency to want to escape whatever this moment, whatever this feeling was, whatever this insecurity was, just let it go and face what was in front of you.
Yeah, because even the idea of a better moment is all coming from the mind.
Right.
You know, and then you have to look and say, well, the moment that is arising is the moment that's here. You know, all these kind of things that you hear, you know, sometimes it's kind of amazing. You know, you see all these like bumper stickers or quotes or kind of short little things, and we can all just go, oh yeah, you know, be with what is, be here now, you know, the power of now. Yes, the power of now. You know, we can take these things and we can just turn them into a sentence that actually doesn't actually mean anything to us. It doesn't even, the real meaning of certain things, we don't even allow those things to penetrate us, because we're not in relationship with, so often we're just in our heads. We're in our own kind of narcissistic relationship to life. When we can open up that through all these different ways we're talking about, we give ourselves a glimpse of what reality actually is, instead of believing that everything that we feel and everything that we think is actually true and is actually real. Because there's something that's, you know, it's just going back to what Katrina was getting in touch with the mystery. You see, beyond the known is the mystery, where the need to know completely disappears. We don't need to know how to do things, you know, how to do everything. We don't need to know how to act. We don't need to know. We just have to be willing to not know and be willing to respond. That's really what it comes down to. And that can happen in every conversation. It can happen in the heat of battle with your partner. It can happen, you know, with your children. It can happen just walking down the street when you see, you know, somebody, and you have a certain conditioned response to that person. And if you just let that conditioned response just kind of fall away, and you know, you just don't need to know, then the mystery is going to guide your actions, and you'll do stuff that you won't even recognize why you're doing it. You know, and then the question comes up when you recognize, I don't know if any of you have ever noticed this, you know, do you ever notice when you allow yourselves to rest more deeply as yourself, you don't know who you are. You don't recognize what's coming out of your mouth. You don't recognize what you're doing. You don't recognize your own curiosity. You don't recognize your own love and care. You don't recognize it as who you thought you were. And then there's just it's almost like a childlike curiosity of like, oh my God, what is actually happening here? Who am I? What's going on? Who am I? What's going on? Who am I? What's going on? Because as screwed up as the world is, there's something so much bigger that's going on that's more interesting than getting fascinated with how screwed up everything is.
I feel at the moment I'm living very much in this place of unknown. And as you know, it terrifies me. Mm-hmm. And as many of you know, my mum is 90 years old, and she's been going in and out of hospital and in and out of hospital. And I've tried to be there each time. And each time I think, this is it. This is it. She's going to pass. And today I went to go and see her, and she was sitting slumped in the chair. And I felt her hands, and her hands were really cold. So I'm calling her saying, Mum, you know, Mum. And I thought, this is it. She has passed. And then she suddenly opened her eyes, and there was such a connection that there was no her and there was no me. And it was such a beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, you know, you started off talking about control. And, you know, I do like being in the illusion of control. And of course, this has been, you know, it's been many weeks, months, that I really feel as if I've been pushed up against, you know, I have absolutely no control over this. And it's, well, I don't really know how to describe it, actually. But
you don't know how to describe the process or what happened today?
I think the whole
or
process.
Both.
I think the whole process. I think it's both. Yeah.
But when you think about the whole process, Carol, what's your relationship? Not how you reacted to it, but right this very moment. What is your relationship to the process that you've gone through? Not what you did before, but right now.
Right now is, I love it. It seems a bit crazy, but I just seem to be loving this process. And it's so painful. And, you know, I'm also really afraid of how I'm going to be. Who will I be? Because I've had my mum all my life, of course. And so there's this fear of, you know, I wonder how I'm going to respond. I wonder how I'm going to cope in my life. I wonder how, you know, how vulnerable I'll feel and how I'll cope with the sense of loss.
Can you recognize, though, that is actually just an egoic habit of trying to know and to control? Because look at your experience. You always have to go back to your experience. You said you loved the process.
Yeah.
Okay, you love the process. And you probably can't even, and you can't really say why you love the process.
No, I can't.
But maybe you love the process because there's nothing to hold on to.
Yeah.
Because every time you think your mother's going to pass, she doesn't pass. You think she's in, there's nothing to hold on to. You just don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so the fact that you love that, then that's fine. Just keep going with that. Just go with your love of the mystery and the love of the process. You don't have to go any further than that. You know, and all these thoughts coming up of who I'll be with, you know, when my mother isn't around and all of that. You see, that's all part of the process too. So you can be in love with that also. You don't have to come up with an answer just because these questions, maybe you're just purifying the vehicle called Carol, and you're purifying yourself of all of these questions that you think needs an answer, but actually you're finding out that you don't really need an answer. And maybe you're even finding out you're not really that interested in the questions.
Yeah.
Because you know, I'm talking to you. Are you really afraid of who you'll be when your mother's not around?
Yes and no.
Okay, but don't think. What's your deepest...
Don't think.
Yeah, no, don't think. Well, yes and no, because I could tell you went up into your head, right? Are you really concerned of who you are, who you'll be when your mother's not around? Is that really is that a true concern?
No.
Or is that a superficial disturbance?
Yeah, it's a
Are you
superficial.
really concerned about that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So then you're just watching a purification process
Okay.
taking place. It's like having a cleanse. So thoughts are arising that maybe you would have believed, and now they're just kind of leaving. But just because they're there, don't make the mistake of thinking that you actually are interested in those questions.
Okay.
You see, because then all those questions can pull you away. They can just be distractions from just being present with your love of the process and not knowing what you love, why you love it, but you just know you love it. And part of the process is what happened today, where you think your mother had passed, and then there was this beautiful recognition.
Yeah.
And if you weren't there and your mother wasn't there, you said you weren't there and your mother wasn't there, then it doesn't really matter if the body drops or not. Because she wasn't there anyway. You said she wasn't there.
No, I meant. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, okay. Mm.
You see, you both, the separate I, your insistence of the separate I and hers obviously disappeared.
Mm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's consciousness meeting itself in form. You're in a form, she's in a form, but you let go of the imposition of separation, and consciousness met itself through two forms.
Right.
And that's what's so beautiful, because there's no imposition being placed on the free flow and the recognition of what is. So when you say and when you're convinced that you're terrified of of losing your separate self, you have this, through your own experience. And I know you've had other experiences of this, but if you just hear it in that moment. And there wasn't any fear, was there?
No, none at all.
Is there anything to be afraid of when it disappeared?
No.
You see, so those are just ideas in your head. So when those ideas come up, you do the same thing that Contrin's going to do, and you'll just go, what is it? It's just an idea. What is it? And then you'll be in touch with that mystery again.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you brought it up. Okay, why don't we just sit for a couple minutes? We're about 5 minutes over, but I think it's okay. Okay, I really encourage everyone to really make it real, what we talked about tonight. I think it was a little bit kind of all over the place, but I think the thread that came through was really, you know, don't avoid anything in your life, but so don't avoid relationship. Be with what's happening, but also ask yourself, what is it? When you're so convinced that you know something is terribly wrong, or you have a belief or an idea, really ask yourself, what is it? And just kind of go through that, and see where it takes you. And see if as you do that, you recognize all your ideas about things just start to kind of fall away into, you know, into kind of the pool of consciousness. It kind of just melts. So make it real, because otherwise we're just talking, and just talking doesn't mean anything. You want to make it real in your own experience. And just one thing that's going to be coming, that's going to start happening in the next month, I wanted to let you know about, is we're going to be having just online meditations that are probably going to be happening a couple nights a week. And it's not going to be, at this point, it's just going to be people coming together that want to meditate. So it's starting off with our community, our Sangha, but then also the one meditation day people will be joining us. But then we'll invite, you know, the people from the webinar, and just make it a space that anybody that wants to meditate and have a regular meditation practice that maybe struggles a little bit. This will be a couple times a week where people can just get on and kind of a screen right now. And I think you can feel the power of it when we just all sit together, even though we're all sitting in front of a screen, something happens. So we'll send out more information about that for anybody that's interested. Okay, so I think that's it. Laura had to turn off her computer because of our connection, so she doesn't get to talk. So we're just gonna, you can come over, and she's got a cat on her lap though too. So let me just turn this off. Okay, so it was nice spending the evening with everyone. Take care. You want to unmute yourselves?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Who is that? All right.
Yeah. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.